start getting today we need a lot of supplies, and just bring what you can literally to the table. And so I'll go over all those at the beginning of class. And if you don't have something, don't worry about it. Just follow along, do the best you can. This is an anything goes lesson. So, and they're going to tell me when it's 1 o'clock, and we'll start right on time. So, I feel like Jeopardy. We should play the do. We'll get that going. It's 1 o'clock? 1 o'clock. Welcome to art class. We have a very fun lesson today. So we're going to talk about an Italian architect, designer, all sorts of fun things. But what I want to do is, namely, we're going to work in 3D design today. I primarily am a 2D artist, two-dimensional, which means I work on a flat surface, like painting, drawing. When you work in 3D, it means it's three-dimensional, which means it's all the way around. A sculpture, ceramics, things like that. So we're going to be talking about a 3D artist today. So here is, let me grab it. These are kind of fun. Sorry, I had this blown up. This is a picture I took at the Indianapolis Museum of Art. If there's one thing you can know about me, other than I absolutely love art, and I have 3 super cool kids, 2, Keaton and Talia, are helping me, and Michaela's here today. Tate is working on cool math right now. So, I love museums. I mean, love museums, especially art museums, but I love them. So if you haven't been to an art museum, take one of the artists that we've talked about in any lesson. I primarily try to talk about a lot of artists that are in museums. Find where that artist has some pieces and go see them. Art museums are fantastic. So this is, and his name is Italian, so I will say it the best I can. Ettore Sottsass. So it's Ettore Sottsass. So that's his name. And he is really an amazing Italian that changed the face of design in the 20th century. He lived to be 90 years old. He actually passed away in 2007, so not that long ago, and was working up until that time. In fact, I believe he had a huge exhibit in Los Angeles in the 2000s, so still exhibiting, designing. He was born in Austria, grew up in Italy, and his dad was an architect, and he was a junior. He had the same name as well, so carried on that family tradition. What I want to emphasize about him is he really loved to take everyday objects and turn them into design. So if you remember, if you were here for Monday's lesson, we're going to go from this crazy, cool, funky design all the way to Gustave Courbet, who's doing apples. This starts there. That is when art starts to change. People want to represent real things. So Gustave Courbet did realism, remember, way long ago, early 1800s, and then jump all the way, boom, 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 150 years forward in like the mid-20th century. And we're saying everyday items now become art. So you get where we went? Art is everyday items, and now this is everyday items are art. So you have Andy Warhol doing the same thing. It starts that whole chain of events. So what you are doing today and the whole events that are going on in our world are going to start a new chain of events in art. So isn't that cool? You're part of history today. So what I want you to do, we've got a whole bunch of supplies. I want you to make sure you have some paper rolls. Now, I have a whole variety. I'm going to try and do them mostly with toilet paper rolls because that might be what everyone has. But look I've got different types of paper towel rolls. I have tape rolls. I have whatever, but toilet paper rolls will work just fine. You're going to want black and white paint. If you don't have black and white, and this, you pretty much need acrylic paint. If you don't have black and white paint, just do the best you can. And you can also use colors because it's your own design, but let's stick to 2 colors today. You want some cardboard scraps, any size, leftover, whatever you have. We're going to incorporate those. You want some scissors because we're going to be cutting the paper towel rolls and the cardboard. You need some baking soda. So right here. And a paper plate, something to mix it on. I didn't put in your list brushes because in my head, if I say paint, we need brushes. So you will need some brushes and, as always, a jar of water. Anytime you have brushes and paint, unless it's oil, you do need a rinsing jar. So gather all your stuff and let's get ready to build a 3D sculpture. So we're going to, you need tape or glue, sorry. Tape or glue. Let me grab my glue. I have it over here. Both are ideal. If you have both, grab both. You can have any type of tape, but we're going to need tape that will stick to the cardboard. So I happen to have masking tape so you can see it. But tape and glue, because you can glue and then put the tape on, and you can always take the tape off later, but that will work better. So let me start this lesson with this is going to be your own design. You're going to take what you have, found objects, and we're going to build a three-dimensional sculpture right behind me. And I may move this over here. Can you see it better over here, Keaton?
A little bit.
A little bit better? How about that? You think they can see that better now that I won't be in front of it and I'll work right here on the table? But if you notice, you have different cylinders, okay? Different round shapes. And then you have just the elements of black and white. So you have that high contrast. What it is it's emphasizing this cylindrical, a cylinder, round, cylindrical shape with using these lines and the high contrast, which means there's a difference between the two, a stark difference, high contrast. Black and white are about as opposite as it can get. These are it's a tint and a shade. Black and white are actually not colors. They're not in the rainbow spectrum. So they are tints and shades. They affect other colors. So this is as simple as it gets. We're not even bringing color in. We're bringing black and white. So we'll put those. So we're going to build our sculpture. Now, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do it. I'll go over several different ways, but what we want to make sure is that we keep with a cylinder, and then we also want to change our widths as we go. So what I would do is cut a toilet paper roll in half. We're going to cut it in half like this. And to do that, I just kind of squish it and cut it. Doesn't have to be perfect. So, see? We've got half. So already we're changing that effect. Then, and this is kind of fun to think about because you're taking an everyday object and we're starting to switch it around. We're going to build our sculpture and then we're going to let it sit and then we're going to mix our paint, and I'm going to talk to you about that. So you have your half, and then you can even cut it in half again. So I'm going to take one half, so then I'm going to end up with, basically, from one shape, I get three shapes. Okay, can you see those? We've got that. And you should have, I think I said 4 to 8 rolls. That's because really you can end up, I'll show you how to stack them and do different things. Now, once you get this concept, you can really go to town on this. But I'm always very aware right now, I want you to use what you have in your house. So I'm going to take one of these. I took one paper towel roll, or toilet paper roll, and I cut it in half, and then I cut it in half again. So I've got these 3. I'm going to cut one side. Doesn't matter. By the way, you can make super cool bracelets out of these too, right away. I feel like Wonder Woman. You can make a Wonder Woman cuff. We've actually done that in superhero camp. But you might need a wider one because you have to deflect bullets. So now I've got this idea. So I'm going to show you how I would apply that to get this to stick out. So I'm going to come over to my cardboard scraps. I've got tons of these. And I'm just going to cut a little square. So, doesn't matter. What I want is I want something about the width that can go inside here so it will push this out from the toilet paper roll. So you see that? Or it can go right here. So I'm going to glue and tape this on. I'm going to take a little bit of my glue. I always squirt the glue so you can feel the air pressure so you know that it's not plugged. We do that in the studio all the time. The kids love it. Okay, so I'm just going to put a dot of glue. That way I make sure it stays, but because we're doing this quickly on camera, normally we'd let that sit. I'm going to put a little piece of tape. So if you just have tape, tape this on. If you have glue, you can do both. So, see how I'm taping that? Looks like it has a little Band-Aid. So, I've taped my little piece of cardboard to a regular toilet paper roll. So here I have 2 toilet paper rolls. One I've cut into half and then half again. I've cut the back off one, so we make an open cuff. And then I've cut a piece of cardboard that I've glued and stuck to the front. So what happens is when I take this and I put it around it, it will sit away. Can you see that dimension? You can see how it shadows. And then I can just tape it to the back. So here's where that end is. You can glue or tape it. I'm going to do both. You'll need a little bit of tape because sometimes, and I'm going straight over that cardboard. So I'm getting that 3-dimension right there. I'm going to tape it just so it stays. How's everyone doing? We have any questions along the way? Okay, Latoya, we're good? Okay. So it should stick out that way. We're going to do this same idea again at the bottom, but we're going to let it protrude a little bit further. So we're going to take this other quarter one, and we're going to do that same idea. So I'm going to repeat it again. So if you're still working on this one, you can do either way. The only thing I'm going to do different about putting this one on is I'm going to put 2 pieces of cardboard so it sticks out a little further so you can see that difference. Okie doke. So I'm going to cut some more cardboard, and I just cut these little pieces. If you don't have extra cardboard, you can always cut a piece of toilet paper tube and fold it over. So I'll just cut another little piece of cardboard. Scraps, or if your cardboard is thinner, you can put more than one. You can always fold it in half. So I've got 2 little squares, and I'm going to put those together. So I'm going to put a little glue. You can tape them together too. Whoops, flying cardboard. Okay, so I've got 2 together like that. I'm going to put a little piece of tape so I make sure that they're going to not slip. Just like that, and I'm going to do the same thing down at the very bottom. And I'll go over all this again because I'm going kind of fast on this. But once you get the idea, so I'm doing the same thing at the same spot where I put my other, and I'm going to glue and tape down. You can just tape. So I've got it like that. And then I'm going to take my, just like I did before where I cut it in the back, made my Wonder Woman band, and I'm going to put it across the bottom. You see how we start getting that cylinder built right there? Make sure it's covered up. So see how we're starting to build these different shapes? And I'm going to glue or tape that. I'll probably do both just because I kind of like extra. And there is no right or wrong on this. This is where you get to become the designer. Now this is some cool facts about our artist today. Do you know he helped design, so you think he's an artist, he's an architect, a designer. He helped design the very first mainframe computer for Italy. And He also was famous. He designed typewriters. Now, how many kids don't even know what a typewriter is? But it's cool. I knew you would know the computer. So, can you see that on camera, Keaton? How we have this? Okay, now here's where it gets fun. You can start, we're going to repeat this and do it a couple different ways, but using this same technique. You can also take your cardboard and you can, I'm going to cut a square. You can start beginning to assemble where you stack them, where you get that different type of level. So this is really where you can start to build and start letting your imagination. If you think of it as cardboard Legos in a way, things that you're trying to build to get those different shapes coming in and out, that you're making the design. These are actually ceramic vases. He would design office furniture and things, everyday objects, and turn them into art. So you can come in or out. So let's talk about how we can make a bigger circle. You can always have a tape ring. If you have a a paper towel roll, you can be doing this in even bigger as you go down. You can add more cardboard. You can use the toilet paper rolls to do the same thing and build those on there. It's the same idea. The fact that we're just trying to make different levels of surface. So let me show you, we're going to make a bigger roll with our half. I've got half a toilet paper roll here that we cut in half. I'm going to make my Wonder Woman cuff. And I happen to have another one right here. And I'm going to tape those together to make a bigger roll. You see what I'm doing right here? So let me show you what I did. I have 2 half toilet paper rolls. So just like I cut one in half, and then I cut the backs open like that. Then I'm going to connect one side. I'm going to use a little glue so I make sure it stays together. And then I'm going to use some tape right here to one side. So I can't believe we don't have any questions. No one asked what a typewriter was.
We do have quite a few people that know what they are, and some of them have typewriters.
Oh, some of them have typewriters. I tell you, it is really cool to type on a typewriter. We were in New Orleans not that long ago, prior to being healthy at home, but in January, and there was an artist. He had a sign that said he was a poet, and he sat out in the middle of the road, and if you came up to him and offered him some money into his jar, he would type a poem on his typewriter, which was actually kind of cool. And so the novelty of him pecking it out on the typewriter was just like the coolest thing to see. So, and I digress. So now I'm taking those sides and I'm putting them together like that. And I'm making basically a bigger roll. So I'm going to do the same thing to this side. And I'm going to tape those sides together. So if you have something that's bigger, you can start thinking of things you have left over. If you're like me, all the time, I'm like, oh, don't throw that away. I can make a house out of that. Don't throw that away. The kids will go take something. I'm like, oh, we can make something out of that. So this is basically what we have. We have a bigger roll right here. I'm just going to tape my edges all the way around. It doesn't matter. We're going to paint over the tape, so it's just fine. And so now how would we sit this on top of here? We can use 2 methods. We can just put a piece of cardboard and stack it just like that, where we get that different shape. And then we could just tape that together or glue that together. I think I'm a little off, uneven, so I'm going to. It's the nice thing. If we were actually making this out of ceramic, you couldn't just cut it. See? The benefits of recycled material. So we could just do something like that. You can also make a little stand to go within there that you put another piece of toilet paper right inside, and then you cover the top and stand it on top of there. I like to just put this right here, and then we're going to have that. So I'm going to glue and tape this together by taping where the edges meet the ring right there, and then I'm going to tape this to there. So what I did was I just almost like made a little box right there. I'm going to tape that, and I'm going to tape the sides. The idea is that we're making something that's three-dimensional, and this uses a different part of your brain than two-dimensional art. So it still is using that creative side, but when you have to think spatially, so meaning things are actually how they're going to connect together on a three-dimensional surface, you're using more that math part combined with the creativity. So we've got that, and I'm going to tape that together, and I've got my wonky little super fun, and I just taped the back, if you can see that, and then I'm going to tape my sides. And it's kind of wobbling all over, and I love it so much doing that. I always like you to see that art does not have to be perfect. Art is a lot of trial and error and finding out what works and growing. And each time you do something, you're going to grow a little bit. You're going to learn something. And some people just stress so much. They're like, oh, it needs to be perfect. And actually, it doesn't. It just needs to be done, and it needs to be worked through, and then you learn from it. And that's why I like to not erase lines. I like you to kind of work through it and continue through that and find out what happens. So, okay. Oh, I love it. So we've got our fun little sculpture. How's everyone doing on theirs? So I'm just going to make one right now, but that gives you the idea. And again, you can use these tall tubes. You can even put tubes inside of tubes. If you have different widths, you can use your cardboard to stack even more and get higher. You can really have a lot of fun constructing these. But let's talk about the black and white part of it. And so even if you're not done, don't worry, we're going to switch over to our paint, and we're going to make basically a chalk paint today. So we're going to be mixing our paint with baking soda. There are several methods to make what's called chalk paint, which is very popular in design right now. A lot of people use it to paint over items that normal paint won't stick to. So what it does is there's a couple things you can add to make chalk paint. Calcium carbonate is one. That's actually ground up chalk, basically, that you mix in with your paint. Another is plaster of Paris. That can be a little trickier, and most people don't have plaster of Paris laying around their house, nor calcium carbonate. And then the third is baking soda. So this is good if anyone's planning on refinishing a furniture. You can do this yourself. I just warning the baking soda can be a little gritty if you don't fully mix it up. So I am going to mix up, I think you can see it in the white just as well as the black. You're going to use 2 parts paint to 1 part baking soda. So I'm going to eyeball it pretty much. I'm not going to measure it out, but normally you would use double the amount of paint as you would use baking soda. And then you're going to want to mix it together. So I'm going to put my paint on first, then add my baking soda, mix it together, and we're going to need to add a little water. Why do we do this? Why are we going to add the baking soda here? Well, look, we've got tape and glue and all sorts of things on top of here. We want to make sure it covers. It also gives the paint a very matte finish. Matte meaning not glossy. So that way we can get that ceramic type of appearance that we want to get. So I'm going to squish a bunch of paint on here, and I'm going to eyeball this. This is about half a cup. So I don't want you to measure your paint out in your measuring cups because it'll probably make them messy. But can you see that on there, Keaton? It's kind of hard for me to hold up paint in a plate right there. Can you see that? And then I'm going to add about half the amount of baking soda. So I'm just going to sprinkle it in. This is just normal baking soda. So it kind of looks like an egg. If I put this, I'll let them see where I kind of piled it on. So you can see that enough, even though it's white on white. And then I'm going to work on mixing this together. Now, if I was actually going to make a large amount, you really have to work on mixing this together because it can get a little bit gritty. But you're going to mix it really well in. The baby powder, which we have used, will make an impasto medium and make it thicker. You can substitute the baking soda in there, but it doesn't give you quite the same effect. It's a little bit different, the composite. So, okay, and it is making a thicker paint. I'm going to add just a little bit of water, but I don't want to add too much. The only reason just a hair of water is it helps the baking powder granules dissolve a little bit better. So I'm going to literally just sprinkle a little water with my brush and see if I can make sure any clumps are mixed up. Okay. So this is going to be our base coat. So I've got my white all mixed up. Just to refresh again, 2 parts paint to about 1 part baking soda. And there is not a science. You don't have to be exact because you can always add a little more paint, a little more baking soda. And then I usually add in just a spritz or sprinkle of water. If I had a bigger amount, I'd add a little bit more, but it does help the baking soda. The baking soda can be a little more granular than, and so you can have some little clumps. It can get a little bit gritty, and that water, you can kind of help those dissolve. And then your paint is ready to paint. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paint my whole surface. I may have to add some more tape here. It starts to move. Now, another thing you can do is you can actually paint your pieces before you assemble them. So if you're making some more today, you can do that. I'm going to just paint right in there. So 90 years of designing and art is what this artist had. Isn't that cool? So if you mix this up really well, you can use this to paint on non-porous surfaces that I normally wouldn't put acrylic paint on. So, and they call it chalk paint because they actually used to add chalk, which is calcium carbonate, to it. It's not, so this is where people get really confused. When I say chalk paint, chalkboard paint is different than chalk paint. Chalk paint will stick to those surfaces. Chalkboard paint is meant for you to draw with chalk on. So I'm probably just going to cover the front for purposes here. Now here's the cool thing. It also dries pretty quickly. So I'm going to really cover that up in there, and I'm going to let it dry. Just going to get my front for you and let you paint yours. So. It's a very modern sculpture. Very cool. Okay, I've got a white little totem pole right here, and I left the back of mine so I could hold it. I might add a little bit more right here. That's the nice thing with the cylinder, is I could hold on to this. Okay. So I've got plenty of white paint. I could make several more. So I may just look at putting together some of these different shapes. So I've got this tape roll, and I'll let you keep painting, and then we're going to mix our black. We're going to let that dry a little bit. And I'm going to start with this, and I think I'm going to put this together. Why not? Because I happen to have a skinny one right there. So I'm going to tape that together. So if you have a tall one, just to give you another idea, see what kind of designs you can come up with in your pieces. I'll tape that on the bottom. There we go. We start just building those together. See if I can keep that from tipping over. And then I'm going to remember how we cut our squares of cardboard to build it out. You can cut as many squares of cardboard as you want. Okay. So I'll glue those together, and then we're going to make I'm going to put a few on here, and then we're going to make our black chalk paint and start making our designs. And then we'll have our Ettore sculpture. So I added a little glue, and I'm going to tape those. So I added 2. Remember, I cut the toilet paper roll in half, and I've added my pieces in here. Oh, I can't wait to see what yours look like, because this is where literally, this is your design. This is whatever you come up with. Oh, I can even, that one's so big, I can even push that out there. Oh, yay, I like that. So doing that idea of different shapes and cylinders, let me just tape this to something wider right there. Now, I will tell you, certain people, you'll find that you find this more difficult than some of the 2D because your mind thinks in 2D. Some people might find this 3D construction, they'll start going crazy. And you can make this, by all means, go wild. Like, let's see what you can come up with. See what you can take a simple toilet paper roll and start building it and doing all different things. And these could be actual vases. You could go out and get sticks, and don't put any water in them. That's not going to work. But you could find sticks or flowers today, and that might look really cool on your table. So I've seen lots, speaking of tables, I've seen lots of great tables where you are creating a lot of kitchen and dining room tables, which, in full confession, I have this giant studio with like 4 studios and my own studio, and I end up creating all the time on our dining room table. All my kids are like, like, we're like, oh wait, we have to eat. Move mom's stuff out of the way. But I get so excited and I'm at home, I want to try something. So it is what it is. It's the life of an artist. So y'all are all living the lives of artists these days. So we've got our fun. See how, especially I see lots of you doing it, a lot of siblings together. You could have a whole stack. This could look so cool. So we're going to make the chalk paint with black now, or your second color, exact same instructions. So in case you miss the white, I'm going to let that one dry. See, it's almost dry. We still have a little bit. So 2 parts paint. So I'm going to squirt my black in here. And there we go. So you can see that to about 1 part baking soda. So see it kind of sprinkled in there. And then I'm just going to take my brush and mix it together. Need a little music. Like paint mixing music. Is there a song with stir in it? Stir it up, stir crazy, stir mix a lot. We could do that. Okay. Oh, I cracked myself up. Okay, so we've got the paint mixed. Then remember, a few little splashes of water. Remember that water helps dissolve. So I literally just dip my brush in and sprinkle some water in there. For this amount, we're going to do that. Okay, so I'm going to let you mix that up, and we're going to get ready to paint ours while we're doing that. And I am almost dry. Look, see how fast that is? And if you rub it, you can kind of feel, don't rub it where it's wet, but you can kind of feel how it is a little gritty on there. And it will just stick beautifully. So, remember, we're talking about Ettore Sottsass, and he was an Italian designer. He was in the 20th century, made lots of cool things, like he helped make the first Italian mainframe computer. Everyone knows what a computer is. He designed typewriters, he made office furniture, he was an architect, very, very well known, very influential architect during the 20th century, really changed a lot of things. And he did ceramics, but his main goal was to take everyday items and turn them into art, which is what we're doing. So I'm going to get a little smaller, and we're going to start making, see how we've got lots of lines going around. You can make them your own way, but we're going to pretend, because it's a cylinder, I'm going to work like it's a ceramic studio, which means I'm going to hold my brush still, and I'm going to turn the surface. Now, this is a challenge, so I want you to try it, because if you're trying something challenging, you're learning. So I'm going to hold my brush still, and I'm going to turn my surface. And then I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to turn, see how we do that? And then we end up with a line across. So try that once, and then go back to whatever works for you. But we're going to make some stripes. I'm going to go along the back. I'm going to hold it and turn my surface. See how we're getting? Now we're going to do all sorts of thin stripes, thick stripes. We've got all sorts of things, big space between our stripes. Let's put a stripe down here. I'm going to reload that. Now I'm holding my brush and I'm turning it as I go. Now, if yours is too wet, you might not be able to do that. I'm going to come back the other way. I'm starting to get there. I'm going to touch that one up right there. Look where we're getting. Look, our toilet paper roll. Excitement. I love it. Okay, so I'm going to add some down on the bottom right here. Let me turn that around so you can see that. I just realized that. I'm going to make a really thick stripe, so I'm going to go twice around with my brush. Go all the way around. Now it helps when you make one. This is what I love about art. When you make one, what you'll do is you'll go, oh, I would do that next time, or I would add more cardboard, or I would attach it. So make a second one, because it's that process of discovery and learning. I'm going to add one more band at the bottom. I'm just taking my brush and I'm pulling it. So I am moving my piece, not my brush. So my brush stays right where it is, and I turn it like that. And then maybe let's make some vertical stripes. Oop, now I'm moving my. And yours can be any way you want. Let's see where we're going. We're getting our piece like that. Okay. I hope that you will continue to go around, because I know you cannot be done. You have to do the back. I mean, you have to go out in the yard and find some flowers or sticks or something to stick in there and surprise your family. Have fun doing this. you've learned several things in this lesson, even though it's really just grabbing toilet paper rolls and gluing them together. What's going on? We're learning that everyday objects. Now, that concept came in the 20th century, that everyday objects can be art. It developed more and more and more with each movement. You also learned about chalk paint, how to add a little baking soda to your acrylic paint and what happens. You learned about 3D design, and I hope you had fun. So tomorrow we are going to be doing Notre Dame's window, which you need lots of circular shapes tomorrow. So you're going to want anything that makes a circle. Look at all these circle things I have on here. Paper plates, pot lids. You're just going to be tracing those. You're not going to be painting them or anything. So it doesn't matter. It can be things that you don't want to get paint on. We're going to use those to build up the concentric pattern that the rose windows make. It is especially beautiful because it was about a year ago last month that Notre Dame burned, and or it may have been a year ago this month. It may have been early April. And I have had the pleasure and the opportunity and the blessing of actually seeing it in person. And so I kind of want to celebrate that beauty because I think it's very poignant for this time that we have to look to see the beauty in each day. Some days it's harder than others. And so that is something that's important. And it's a really important piece of art history too, which you know I love. So join me tomorrow. Finish making your sculptures and your beautiful design. And please send me pictures. One thing that you have started sending me that I absolutely love is your creating spaces. Send me your artwork, makepaducah@yahoo.com. But also, if you don't mind, send me your creating spaces. Just let me know I can share them. Because I'll post them to Instagram and the art show and Facebook in different ways and different methods. And it's just exciting, and really it inspires others, because lots of times people have excuses that they can't create art because they don't have the perfect studio, or they don't have the perfect supplies, or they don't have those things. And so you are proving them wrong. You're proving them that you are an artist and you can do it no matter the day, time, or place. So with that note, join me tomorrow, 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll see you there. It's going to be an awesome Friday. Art is man's nature and nature is God's art. Have fun, guys.